This is Infection, the survival podcast, recorded live on Tuesday, June 25th, 2019, episode 232. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Infection, the survival podcast. Infection is your source for the latest information on survival video games. We bring you the latest news, reviews, updates, and more each and every week. My name is Nick Craig. You can follow me on Twitter at Nicholas M. Craig. And, of course, check out our website, which is, as always, as it has been for almost 5 years now, I believe, infectionpodcast.com. We're doing an audio-only show today due to some bandwidth restrictions as I am out of town. But the party still goes on, and joining me all the way from the great state of Idaho, I almost said Boise, Idaho, which isn't a state, Idaho, Brian, who put the I in Idaho, Aldridge. Hello, Brian. Yes. How are you?
We are practically the state here, so almost everybody lives in this one little place. I'm doing good. So if you people want to check me out, go to Boise Computer on Twitter. Of course, my blog, biteoftech.com, and our website. You know, this is an audio-only show, so we can't really show you, but make sure you go to infectionpodcast.com. On the right-hand side, you'll see a green button that says Join Our Discord server. That's where people throughout the week submit news. They talk about different things. It's just a lot of banter back and forth, and it's a place where everybody hangs out. We also have their Steam group. Before the live show starts, a little notification will pop up, and it gives you an opportunity to catch it live and participate in the chat. We also have on the left a Support Us tab. If you go over there, you can support us through Humble Bundle. We also have Amazon links on there. Or if you wanted to do some sort of a direct donation, that is an option as well. And we have all the show notes. So since we're going to be doing a lot of talking here, we will reference some videos. But if you want to go and see some of the things that we are discussing, go to their website, check out the show notes for this episode, and we have them for all the episodes before this. And of course, on the website, we have our audio-only forums, a link to our YouTube channel, our Twitch channel. It's all there. And I think that is my limit on the self-promotion for today. Till later.
Okay, well, fine. We'll allow that much self-promotion on this episode. Hey, I just want to give a quick note. We did do all of our due diligence for PAX West, which is coming up here in a couple months. So we've submitted all of our information. We are waiting to hear back from the great folks over at the Penny Arcade. And, boy, I'll tell you what, it's going to be a real problem if we don't get those press credentials. So we're holding out hope that our coverage from the last, PAX East 2017 and then PAX West 2018 are enough to push us through. But we're looking forward to PAX West coming up here just a couple months to get out of town for a couple of days and check out some of I guess what the best stuff the gaming industry has. And Brian, I think without getting too far into this, I think now that we've seen more and more companies and big companies like Sony and Nintendo pulling out of events like E3. But Sony will have a huge setup at PAX. They did last year, and I assume it'll be the same this year.
And they were really going for the VR last year. I don't know if they're going to continue to push that, or maybe it'll be interesting to see if they have another direction. There's a lot of talk about streaming services and kind of the future of the console. I think it'll be really interesting to see if they debut something other than, VR is cool, but still hasn't taken up, I think, like what the industry is wanting. And so it'll be interesting to see if they keep pushing that, or they show us something new, maybe some of the new games they're going to do, some of the new tech, maybe some things involving the next generation of consoles. That's what I want to see.
Do you think that, video game VR, would you attribute that to some of the same issues that 3D televisions had when those started coming out in the 2007, 8, 9, 10 range, 6, maybe 2006? Yeah. Do you see some parallels there? Because I do.
I think they're the exact same problem. The issue is they can't make something that's exact for everybody. People have different eyes. People have different things going on, and people get dizzy. People can only do it for so long. It was the same thing. I have a 3D TV here. We used it twice, I think, and it was just not a pleasant experience. And you're putting on these glasses, and it's not really that great a 3D. It's just making the experience not as comfortable. I think the point where people will really see an uptick in how this technology is used is the second that they can either broadcast something directly into your eye or tap into your senses somehow, which that kind of scares me. when you jump to that level. But I think trying to do it in the current medium of putting glasses in front of your face and then allowing you to focus and having your brain try to understand that, I just don't think it's ready. I think it needs to get more to the matrix level of you have a hard time deciphering between reality and it. I think they've done a good job with the augmented reality, trying to kind of push this of you have something in, there's something that looks like it's in your real environment, like it's walking on the ground or it's sitting on the coffee table. I think if they can combine that technology with something that actually somehow feeds into your brain and makes your brain think, which is, you see this on the Black Mirror. I mean, it's like a horror story almost, what they could do. But in a perfect world, just imagine if they could tap into your train of thinking and put something in front of you. I mean, you wouldn't need monitors anymore. Like the world, you just would see things on the wall. Like that would be your monitor. You would see things in your vision like a HUD. I mean, it would be amazing. That's where they need to go. But do you want them tapping into your brainwaves? And we've seen what Facebook and Google and all these people, the second they get access to you, they're just like, they want info. They want info to sell. I can't imagine letting them in my brain.
It's the true information war, Brian, as one person puts
yes,
it.
It is.
But I'll tell you what my biggest problem with VR is, and I think I'm not going to project on you, but I think you have probably the exact same issue, is you've got a multi-monitor setup at your desktop, and for you to use VR, you'd have to disconnect probably two of your monitors, and I have the exact same problem. I'd have to, every time I wanted to use VR, I'd have to disconnect or unhook part of my computer setup or build an entire new PC, which is, by the way, you can't just buy some off-the-store $450 Lenovo from Best Buy. You needed good GPU and you need a good CPU, or I have to go out and spend $1,100 on a new computer. That's been plus the cost of the VR.
Plus the space. I mean, for me, this room where I'm at, it's set up to sit at a desk at a computer. It's not made to walk around the room. Like I'd be bumping into the bookshelf. I'd be bumping into that fish tank behind me. Like it wouldn't be great, right? Yeah. You'd almost need a special area. And I think that's where, for me, sure, VR on my computer would be great, but it's just, I would have to kind of redesign everything around it. Maybe someday that will happen. That's where VR for like a PS4 makes more sense to me, because you generally have an open area in front of your TV already. You don't have an open area in front of your monitors. Usually it's a desk where you sit down and you have a chair and all these things. It's not clear. It's not a big room usually for most people. And so I think that for me, VR on a PS4 or something like that makes much more sense. So I think you'll see people kind of drifting that way, because your average PC user, I mean, we see pictures of people's desks all the time. It's just their desks are not made for VR. Like you have to clear a huge area of your room, and I think that they'll have a lot of difficulty trying to keep pushing that direction with the PC market.
There's a high barrier to entry, both from a price perspective and, as you said, a logistics perspective when it comes to either space and or just, it needs to be easy, right? I think, Brian, we've talked about this before. You, our buddy Lance and Ross and I all got Call of Duty World War II was it two Novembers ago? In 2017, I guess it would have been. And while we all had a great time with it, once Christmas hit, I was out of town for a couple weeks. Lance was doing some traveling. It was just the barrier to entry of hopping back onto the console, because it was just a pain. My system wasn't updated. It's just the VoIP system was kind of garbage. And not that I'm drawing a parallel between that and VR, but if it's not easy, if I can't just, and this is the way everybody is, I think, if it's not just, I want to do thing now, and I don't want to have to spend half an hour updating my thing or figuring out why my microphone's not working on the little controller plug that they've got, or whatever the problem may be, some big patch to the game because I haven't had it in my system in over 6 months. There's this high barrier. It's the same reason I haven't gone back and finished Red Dead Redemption, to be honest with you, because it's my setup is not great for console gaming. I have to sit pretty far across the room, or I have to sit right on top of the TV, and it's just not ideal. And so I don't do it. Yeah, and that's why I haven't finished Red Dead. One of the reasons.
Yeah, see, I'm the opposite. I get tired of being in this room back here because I do school and everything is at this desk. And so, like, for me, the TV is my escape from this room. And so, like, I treat it kind of the opposite of you. Like, you're like, oh, I have to go set that up. No, it's like, okay, I got to get out of this room and get away from being in front of this computer because, like, that's where I'm at all day.
Well, when you live in a 400 square foot apartment, I mean, and it's an open concept.
The whole thing is we were a big bedroom.
It is. It's a loft, ceilings, and everything. It is. It's all just one big area. So yeah, there's no separation between that and my computer, rather, gaming setup. All right, we're a little off track, but I want to start off. Speaking of VR, this is a game that tried doing a little bit of VR, and ARK hit us with an out of the blue update this past week, Brian. I think last week we joked there was one update for ARK, and they fixed an issue. I believe was the three words.
I think it was.
Fixed
or was it fixed an issue?
I don't remember. But it was. It wasn't anything. It was here. It is. It was update 296.106, and you're right. It was fixed an exploit, and that's the last thing we'd seen from the ARK folks, except for this week. We got a pretty big update from them, Brian. What What is this? What happened?
Well, so this is a new map, and I guess they learned their lesson about PR of not releasing this as a paid DLC. But also they did promise that they were only going to have 3 paid DLCs with the previous one. So they released this map. It's a 63-kilometer map, so it's big, and it has a lot of the same, a lot of the creatures that you've seen in some of the other maps. But they also have some characters that are only, or dinosaurs, whatever they are, that are only in this map. So it does have higher mountains. It has a cave system. So they've kind of probably taken some of the tech from each of the maps that they kind of made up from the original one, and they're using that. So this right here, it says it has, lush jungles, lava, hot springs. It's got a lot of the different biomes, what we call them. It's got 8 different biomes in this map. So they've taken a lot of the different biomes from all the different ones and added, because I don't remember there really being a hot springs or anything like that. They have a boss arena in here. They added, it's a really big network of caves. So that's one thing that's nice about ARK when you get in and you feel like you're actually exploring. And then they have ruins in this one that you can go and explore as well. So it seems like this is almost kind of like the Island 2. It's like a fixed version of the Island, because the Island, they didn't really change. I mean, they changed some, but there were some areas that they didn't drastically change and use some of the new tech and kind of really resculpt the environment. I mean, they added, there is beautiful areas, but it doesn't flow quite as well, I think, as some of the other maps. And so I'm hoping that this one will be a little bit better. So we'll have to get this on there and try it out. I wonder if they're trying to kind of revive their reviews in Steam.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like they took a big hit in their Steam ratings, and with this, I'm wondering if it's kind of going to help, where people start talking nicely about them again and giving them less of a hard time. I mean, about their pirate game, and then this, and with, everybody being mad about the paid DLCs. So this is some new content from them. Of course, they don't say anything up to this point. They're very tight-lipped until they actually put something out. I
will say this. On just this new DLC, it's got 441 reviews on Steam, and 75% of them are positive. So it's got the mostly positive rating as of now. It's only been out 7 days. It came out just after last week's show on Tuesday. So it's only been out 7 days, but thus far, it's got that mostly positive review. What do you attribute the freeness? I know they said they were only going to do 3 paid DLCs, but why would they? It's not like they're hurting for players, Brian. They've got between 40 and 50, maybe even 60,000 people playing the game at any given point. Actually, I saw this past weekend. They had a peak of 87,000, I think it was, over the weekend with this new DLC. They're not hurting for players. Why put all the time, effort, and money into an unpaid DLC?
I mean, I'm assuming they want to maintain players. This is kind of a combination of all the tech, because I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you won't find in the island in here, and I think they're kind of showing off. They put a lot of new tech into each of those DLCs. You know, things that were very different. So I think this is kind of like the base game's version of here's a little bit of something from each of the DLCs. Because you got to think, if people didn't buy the DLCs, they wouldn't know. And I think that maybe they're trying to win those people back and be like, okay, here, check this out. You can have a taste of what some of these other DLCs are like. Get the season pass, you know, play all of our things. Because that they're probably not making a lot of money at the moment off of Atlas. I mean, they're probably realizing that this is their bread and butter right now. You know, how can we get people to either purchase or buy the season pass? Even though this one's free, but why? You know, what would we do? We put something out there to get them playing, checking it out, and then maybe they'll find interest again and build the player numbers up. So maybe they'll release that PvP mode or something. Who knows?
Yeah,
there's probably a marketing reason behind it.
Oh, definitely a marketing reason behind it. I think this will be interesting. Well, we should maybe, you know, obviously Game of the Week's taken a little bit of a hiatus throughout the summer months, but we
could throw a server up,
yeah,
too, if you want to.
We probably should schedule this
to explore the map.
Yeah, maybe in a couple of weeks here. I'm out of town again this Friday, but maybe over the next couple of weeks we'll schedule a Friday night and we'll just spin a server up with this map, because as you made an interesting point, Brian. This includes a little bit of all of the other maps as well as all of the technology and things from all those other maps, and as you said, the island too. I mean, maybe they're looking at bringing in a whole new set of players that, I don't know, maybe disenfranchised players from public servers from way back in the day when China #1 was, you know, roaming the earth and
drove everybody away.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe this is the plan. Maybe this will be the new ARK map. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say. Maybe
this is like the new default map. Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, who knows? But
I mean, if you look at a lot of the cool ambient lighting and all these things that you didn't see in the original map, like there's some cool environments that they never bothered adding to, because that's one thing we were frustrated about. It's like, well, why didn't they do some of these things in the original? You know, they've added it, and then we saw, okay, they added some things in the DLCs. And then there's even technology that we've seen in Atlas, and it's like, well, why didn't they put that into ARK? And so maybe they're realizing, okay, we got to kind of scale back on Atlas a little bit. Maybe we'll start seeing some cool stuff being brought into ARK, and like that will be their all in. Because I just don't see them really pushing. I mean, they're putting out content for Atlas. They're putting out new patches, but I have a feeling that they're losing money on it at the moment, or breaking even.
That wouldn't surprise me. Now, how do you pronounce this new app? Is it Valguero? Valguero?
I think it's Valguero.
Valguero. Okay, that maybe sounds right. So it is free. It's out. It came out on the 18th for PC, and it's going to be coming out in, they say, mid to late July for Xbox and PlayStation. And I don't think the game's on Switch. Well, the game is on Switch. I don't know when it comes out on Switch. But it's free, and I find this to be very interesting. I think I agree with you, Brian. I don't think I agree with you. I do agree with you. This may be the for lack of a better pun, Atlas is a sinking ship. We need to, put some eggs back in the ARK basket instead of keeping them all in this pirate game basket. Yeah.
I mean, it'd be great if they could fix, but I think they've realized the logistics issues of Atlas. It's easier to control a game like ARK, where you can have these individual servers and you have the ability to kind of affect what things are happening. In Atlas, I think they realize they have no control. They can put in little changes, they can block things from happening, but you know what? It works out the same every time in the end. You're going to get killed and blown up by some sort of exploit by a huge group of people. And so I think that here, that's why people enjoy this game more. I mean, there's cool things in Atlas, but they just can't provide this experience.
I do note something interesting here. I'm looking at the ARK Gamepedia at the a rendition of the maps. When you press M in game, it pulls up the map. Normally, ARK maps have an ocean border, an ocean perimeter. This one is different. There is a huge body of water going from pretty much diagonal across the middle of the map, and it's got kind of a jut out in the middle of it. We'll put a link in the show notes, infectionpodcast.com. But it kind of cuts the map in half almost. You are either in the redwood zone, which is down in the southwest corner of the map, or you're in the jungle forest zone, which is in the northeast, or the snow zone, which is in the all the way to the north. This is a design I haven't really seen from them as of. I don't think I've seen this.
They're
design
wasting
yet.
less space,
right?
For
sure.
And they're probably just kind of having mountains or something that's blocking you from going out the outer edge. But that's the thing. I mean, they've realized, okay, we can just have it to where birds and things like that, you just don't allow them to fly outside of a certain area. I think that having it all in the middle makes more sense, especially if they want people to run into each other, because everybody's kind of in the ocean, kind of goes around the edge and tries to avoid each other. But here, you can't really avoid each other when the body of water is in the exact center of the map, and it's surrounded by so many biomes. Yeah, I mean, they're all touching. So,
I think I do like the layout of the map. I think that middle zone is going to be kind of interesting, and I don't know, maybe because by the way, this may be something lost on people that don't know ARK or are not familiar with ARK. There is a large portion of the game that revolves around water. There are underwater creatures. There are things like, what is it? They have a dolphin, right? Or there's water creatures that you can tame, like the gator. There's a dolphin, I think, of some sort. There's a shark. There's a whole diving system where you get oxygen tanks and you can go and dive and explore underwater. This game's got a very in-depth water-based game already. And that's why originally we thought Atlas was kind of weird, because it seems like they could have just added that on as a whole game mode in ARK and probably could have accomplished more. Looking back on it now, that's maybe what they should have done.
Well, and here, one interesting thing about this map is it has what they call the Abyss. And it's made to go and dive and to discover, and it's a difficult area to reach that's totally underwater. So they are doing something like that in Atlas as far as the diving stuff. But now we're finally starting to see that, because I mean, they had some things you could check out in the water, but they never quite took advantage of it. And we always, as you said, we always wondered why. And I think then when Atlas came out, it's like, okay, that's why they ignored the water for the most part, when they could have taken so much advantage of it. And I think now maybe they're realizing, well, let's start integrating, people who are going to buy Atlas have purchased it. If that's the kind of game they want to play, but let's also add some of this tech into ARK without feeling like it's taking away from the experience of the other one. It's just going to make this one better. It's not going to make the other one worse.
I'll tell you what, I have not had an urge in quite a significant amount of time to go in and play ARK, but after reading this last week and now talking with you about it, I've got a real itch to jump into ARK and try this new map out. This layout of this map is very appealing to me. I don't know why. But it just is very appealing. Yeah,
and seeing some of the screenshots that they're showing on this one place, looks like it's a beautiful environment. That's one thing I really liked. I remember when we first started playing ARK, and I went to go find frogs. And I went into that swamp, and that was just the most amazing thing. You kind of get used to it. You get jaded over time, right? Technology has changed since we first played that.
Yeah.
But I remember going in there and just being like, this is amazing. That they pulled this off. And I don't think people truly appreciated at the time how beautiful that looked as far as that environment and the way they did the water and just the atmosphere and how it felt. Of course, you're constantly getting chased by snakes, so it's hard to appreciate. But I think that they tried to do that again here, kind of give you beautiful environments you go through, and it's like, oh, this is cool. I like this. I want to go, let's go over here and look and see what's over there. It's not just some of their recent DLC maps that you didn't really feel like there was a place to go. I mean, it wasn't the same.
Yeah.
Or you go there and it was a repeat. It was like a repeated texture. It was just the same thing. It's like, okay, over there's desert and there's nothing there.
I don't believe, and I I think I'm correct in this. I don't think I ever purchased any of the DLC. I don't believe I've played on any of those maps. Just because I didn't see the cost. The cost wasn't justified for me. I didn't play the game enough. But but now that you say that though, and you mentioned a little bit earlier on, adding something like this back into the game may get me interested again, which could in turn at some point get me to purchase the season pass and get, what do they have? They have what, three or four paid DLCs that they've got out. Get me into those. So you mentioned a marketing standpoint. This may be the play.
Yeah, they need to get people hooked again, because there's a lot of people that know the other maps inside and out, or maybe they didn't like the newer maps from the newer DLCs, because I mean, I think they focused so much on the tech that they didn't focus as much on the map itself. And I think here that looks like they really focused on the map and just put a lot of cool stuff in there. So we'll definitely have to check it out. Yeah,
absolutely. So if you are interested in this, you just head on over to the Steam store page for ARK Survival Evolved, and you can scroll down and you can see it's the most recent content for this game, and it is totally free. So you can go in there and pick that up. Well, not pick it up, but you can go. And actually, it looks like some of the other DLC is actually on sale. Aberrations and Scorched Earth are both 65% off. So this is part of it.
You can get it, what, $7 or something?
Yeah, $7 right now. And this is,
or you can get the season pass for $24. I have to add that in my head.
The season pass says it's not available for me to buy. I don't know. Oh yeah, no, you're right. Season pass is $24 right now, which is a pretty good price.
So, but it's not as good a deal as if you bought them separately. So I'm wondering, that's kind of weird.
It is kind of weird. This is part of their midweek madness offer, which is in place until Wednesday, I guess. So there you go. Okay. ARK Survival Evolved. Check it out. New free DLC. We heard nothing for weeks, just regular updates, regular QOL things, and then bada bing, bada boom, brand new DLC. So go check that out over with the ARK folks. All right.
Very good.
What you know what?
You want me to just touch on Atlas really quick?
Yeah, sure.
There's not any huge content, but the last one we talked about was 207.981, and since then they've done, for instance, 207.99, which was about 4 bug fixes. One thing they did is beds can only be used to spawn on after their initial respawn cooldown is cleared. Somehow that had broken. 207.991, they fixed an issue with the bolas. 207.992, company rank settings are no longer the default option on E for climbing ladders if you're an admin or owner of the company. And then they improved the ghost ship appearance logic, so that should be a little bit better. And then some fixes visually. 207.994, they fixed multiple cases where players would become unbased, so they would slide off their ship due to various structures that were on there. And then the latest 207.996, they did a lot of increasing of damage for the sword, the mace, the pike, the spear, the throwing knife. Also, they went through and fixed cannon shooting through overhangs. That's something they've just really been hammering away at these recent patches. They increased the gun effectiveness against creatures, which is interesting. They reduced the health potion self-heal by 20%. They reduced the tiger and lion head hitbox bone damage multiplier to 1.5. And then Magic Mythos now active for the weekend. So you can get a 2x bonus rates for harvesting, taming, XP, and gold over the weekend. And it says AOD on Golden Age now drop gold when killed, scales with level, and then now with the non-weighted player spread up to 120 for Golden Age servers. And AOD are now immune to anything except gun, non-puckable melee damage, and tame damage. So that's pretty much current. Not any new content, but they're fixing bugs after they released big content 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I think 3 weeks ago now they added that in. So I wonder if we'll see kind of a not to go back to the ARK conversation, but I wonder if we'll start to see like the meter start swinging in the other direction. A lot more ARK content.
I think they're going to scale back.
Yeah,
well, I mean when your server's running the requires so much more cost on a monthly basis. And then, and if there's a problem with one, it's a problem with all on that system, versus this where you have more people playing it. I think they're finding that people aren't going to turn around and buy skins. Like, they never really have taken advantage of the skin market, and they've had them in there. But I think they're realizing, and they can't really do DLCs for Atlas. Like, how are you going to do a DLC?
That's going to be tough.
I mean, you can't have content that only part of them can see.
Well, WoW did
people aren't going to want that.
How did WoW do DLC?
Yeah, but they charge you a monthly subscription every month, and they turn around and they wipe the whole world and have everybody then continue. Well, they're not wipe, but they change the whole world, and then you have to level up because then you're behind and everybody's more powerful than you. So they force you to keep playing. So here, there's no way to do that in this type of environment. I don't see a way for them to make money after the fact, and I don't think they thought that through. They're like, oh, cool tech, but what next?
I'll say this. One fortunate thing of us, and I know some people aren't into us just reading change notes and update logs every week, but one fortunate thing of that, Brian, is that we will be able to tell very quickly if our assumption here is true. I mean, we'll just see it. We've talked about every ARK update for games been out for 6 months now. Every week we've talked about an update for Atlas, if there's one available. We'll be able to see within the next 3 weeks, really, are they scaling Atlas back and pushing it to ARK, or are they going to keep Atlas where it is and do something else with ARK? Who knows? We'll see that very quickly.
Yep. And so that'll be something that'll be interesting to watch play out, because I'm sure they're having those meetings. Like, how do we keep money coming in? I mean, unless they have some new project, they said there were only going to be a certain number of DLCs for ARK.
Yeah.
And people have purchased Atlas, and I doubt there are a lot of new people purchasing it anymore. So they've got to come up with a way to keep money coming into the bank.
Yeah, and then that definitely is, as we've talked about, if you like it or not, that is the goal. That is the objective. That is what every game developer that is releasing a game, rather if they tell you that or not, they are trying to make as much money as possible and spend as little as possible. That's the way of the world.
Well, and now another company that's been linked to them, if you remember Virtual Basement, you'll notice that icon that shows up at the bottom, or the loading screen when you're loading into ARK. That company had branched off, and they're still probably doing things, but they made that Outlaws of the Old West game, and they did a patch this past week. And what you remember, we had the wonderful barn update that you loved so much, Nick.
Big fan, yeah.
That they have added in a saloon to the main town. So you have a saloon that you can walk into, and I think for a Western game, that's almost like a must-have. They're starting to put in the environment, and really they need to go with role-playing in this game. I mean, I see that as the future of a game like this, if you can get a good role-playing community. They've gone through and been working on getting a lot of performance increases. They added the saloon where you can buy drinks. They added alcohol, the ability to drink alcohol in there, and then your character looks drunk. Then they did some fixes of like death animations and various things, fixed some issues with the UI. One thing you can do now that's different is horses can now be released into the wild through the radial options, and horse ownership can now be transferred to somebody else through the radial menu. They made clothing saleable to tailor. I'm assuming they mean you can actually sell it and then tailor it. People can sell what they've tailored. Or actually, I think you can have clothes. You can sell clothes to the tailor. So it's probably a way to make money.
Oh, cool.
They added snake mounts to the taxidermist. So if you kill a snake, you can mount it up on your wall. They added some hotbar options, and then they did some visual effects and asset fixes. For instance, they made whiskey and rum, up on the wall. You can purchase that in the saloon. Made rum drinkable like whiskey. So there's a lot of fixes like that, kind of getting ready for this patch. But this is a game that, it's a cool concept. I think if they keep on working it out to where there's content, that's a tough thing in a big open world. They're used to things like ARK where you create all your own content, but there's catalysts the whole way. They have to create all those catalysts in this game so that people then start creating their own story, kind of like what they did in ARK. Every server in ARK is different. It's a different story for each one, but the maps all started the same. And so I think here you've got ARK, the version, what's equal to ARK in a Western world, where you need people building those bases and creating those rivalries between clans and having the no-go zones of the map and things like that. I think that's what's going to make this game kind of work, and it just doesn't have all the content yet. They're putting it in.
Yeah, and the good thing about that game, I'd say from an outsider, is it's right on the cusp of price point where at $19.99, one good update that piques somebody's interest, like, oh, that one thing looks really cool, I think people will be willing to gamble, roll the dice, and say, okay, for $20, I will buy this game to try feature X or feature Y, whatever it may be.
Yep, and I think that's the good idea for them, is get people playing it. ARK, never really charged a huge amount. Here, I think they could get away with doing skins and maybe special looking outfits and things like that a little more than ARK tried. Come up with some ways to make money for that. But I think the gameplay, like, they just need to get the gameplay, get it to where there's funny interactions at the saloon and things like that, so that streamers play it and then somebody sees, oh, that was funny, I want to go check out that game. They just don't have things for that to happen yet. I mean, you're going to ride around in the wilderness and kill things. Maybe run into some people, build a base, and then kill more things. They need to create the interactions between people that streamers love.
Yeah, and just looking at this quickly on Steam, the reviews are mixed. There's 2,300 reviews about overall, and only 65% of them are positive. So, it's a 60-40 split, and that's not great when you go to a page and you're coming up with how you want to handle this. Do I want to buy this game? Do I not want to buy this game? And you see, well, it's got mixed reviews. That needs to be changed. That needs to be positive, I think, for a lot of people to push them over the edge. Unless they're all in. If you're all in, you want this game, you're going to buy it no matter what the reviews are. But for somebody like me that could be on the fence, that mixed review is probably the barrier to entry at this point.
And that's where they're going to have to just keep putting out content until enough people find interest and the reviews make an uptick. Because the mixed is that's their biggest barrier right now, is people look at that. And as you said, there's probably issues in the game. I'll wait.
I'll wait. Exactly. And the problem with I'll wait is between right now and the I'll wait time, 3,000 new games come out, and your interest is now elsewhere because we've got new games releasing literally every day.
And visually, this isn't an amazing game. I mean, compared to Red Dead, when you have a game that has mechanics similar to Red Dead, an environment similar to Red Dead, it's really tough because people now have an unrealistic expectation of what every Western game should look like, and they don't really realize the amount of cost and manpower and time and everything that went into, and technology that went into something like Red Dead, and they want a small project like this, I mean, compared to have all the same looks and features. And it's just, I think that's a difficult barrier for them to overcome as well.
Yeah, that is definitely an issue for them, or is going to be the continuing issue for them. I want to talk about one of the games that I actually have spent a lot of time on recently, and that's Dead by Daylight. They're an interesting group over there. They do a lot of DLCs and a lot of cosmetics. It's about every 3 or 4 weeks they're adding some type of either new killer or new map or something new in that game. It's a constant stream of new content. And so we'll talk about the new content first, and then I've got I'm going to have to crucify them because there's a couple of issues that just need to be dealt with. So they've got a new killer in the game. It's Ghostface, and this got leaked, right? We talked about this maybe a month and a half ago.
It was leaked.
And the Ghostface is the Scream mask, the one that you've seen thousands of times on Halloween. It's the typical Scream mask. So they've got Ghostface in the game, and he comes with 3 new killer perks. First one is called I'm All Ears, and when a survivor creates a loud noise outside of your terror radius, their aura is revealed for a limited time. So if you do things like run, jump over windows, things that well, you see that anyway, but if you're doing loud things outside of the killer's aura, they are able to see you and track you. That's the killer's first new perk. Their second one is called Thrilling Tremors, and after picking up a survivor, all generators not being repaired by survivors are blocked by the entity. The entity is the what is the word I'm looking for? The thing that kills you when you get sacrificed, when you die at the end of the game, those big claws come in and grab you. That is the entity. So if you're not doing a generator when somebody gets hooked, it's blocked for a limited period of time. I think it's either 10 or 15 seconds. It's enough that it's a real pain in the ass. I can speak from firsthand experience. It's really annoying because you'll be running towards a generator, killer hooks somebody, and now you have to just sit there and twiddle your thumbs for 15, 20 seconds while you wait for that to be done. And then the last one on there is the furtive chase. And for that, the killer, you become obsessed with one survivor. When your obsession is hooked, the perk receives a token. Each token decreases your terror radius during a chase, so you have a better terror radius. The next time a survivor rescues someone off the hook, the rescuer, meaning the person pulling the other person off the hook, becomes the obsession. So those are the three new perks. This killer is incredibly OP right now. He is almost completely silent. There's a very small, short audio cue before he comes to kill you, and it sounds like a car crash or breaking glass. It's a very short cue, and then he is right up on you. And this is
sounds like it would drive me crazy.
Yeah, and from what I understand from talking to a couple of our friends that have played this game for a lot longer than I have, this is pretty typical for what they do. Is when they first add a killer in, they make him a little OP to entice people to buy.
Get a lot of people playing it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you see the killers kicking your ass in every game, you're like, oh, hey, maybe I'll go and buy this guy and give him a try. So he's typically a little OP, but Brian, I uninstalled the game on last week. And then, of course, I reinstalled it immediately after. But I got so pissed off with this new killer. I was done. I mean, I raged. And I've talked many a times on this program about how I don't rage in Dead by Daylight. I have a very short fuse. And
what are you talking about?
I love you too, Brian. It's okay. I've got a very short fuse. If I'm not having a good time, I'm not gonna play a game. It's just the way it is. And I haven't really experienced that with Dead by Daylight before, but this new killer, I don't know what it is about the new killer. It's the stealthness. I cannot wrap my head around this guy, and it's become a real problem. Now, so that's the new killer. He's available. His name is Ghostface. You can buy the DLC. Their DLC is very reasonably priced, $4.99. You can pick it up, and you get the killer and the killer's new perks. And the way that Dead by Daylight works is you level up a killer or a survivor to a certain level, and their individual exclusive perks become teachable, meaning that you can give them to other players.
Pretty much build your own. Can you build your own character at that point?
Kind of, yeah. So, for example, if you really like the I'm All Ears perk, which allows the survivor to see, allows the killer to see when survivors are running and doing things that are loud. If you level the killer up to a certain point, you can teach Leatherface or the hag or the pig person. You can teach them that same perk. So you can customize killers and survivors to your playstyle. They're not all locked exclusively to that. So
that seems like a good kind of like end game. I mean, that pushing people to a sort of an end game. That seems like that's what it is. Continuing to level up characters so that you can build that ultimate character where a new person coming in wouldn't have that access.
I'll tell you what it does is I'm doing this right now as a survivor. I don't play as the killer. I play as the survivor. It is encouraging me to level up players that I don't want to play as to get their one teachable perk. One of them being self-heal is a big one. There's another one that allows you to, it's called adrenaline, and when either the hatch gets shut or the last generator gets done, it bumps up your health one level. So if you're hurt, when the last generator gets done, it fully heals you automatically, and it gives you a speed boost. So you play certain survivors up to a certain level where you get their teachable perk, and then you give somebody else their perk. I don't know if I'm making the best sense. It's a little confusing, but it allows you to essentially use anybody's exclusive perk or ability on anybody else. But the caveat is you have to play the person's whose perk it is, in most cases up to level 35 or 40 until it's teachable. So you have to commit a decent chunk of time to getting that ability.
It's those time sinks. I mean, that's those time sinks that you always want.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's available, and now I need to talk about I need to talk about my personal raid here. There's a video. You'll see it on screen right now, but there's but really you can go back and watch it. There'll be a link in the show notes. I was playing Friday night or Friday night, yeah. And the big issue with Dead by Daylight up until this point, by the way, it's the 3-year anniversary right now. But the big issue with Dead by Daylight is that it uses the killer is the host. So there's one killer and up to 4 survivors. So the killer is the server host per se. You're familiar with how that works. There's dedicated servers. Then there's killer's the host, which essentially is a peer-to-peer server. And unfortunately, that gives a pretty big advantage to the killer. Now, Brian, I'm remote right now, and we're actually doing the show here off of a hotspot. But if I was to play Dead by Daylight on this crappy condo internet that I have, I would have a significant advantage over the survivors because my internet is bad. So I'm the host.
So it would always favor you.
Yeah, because I'm the host, and if I have a crappy internet connection, you, the survivor, is going to be lagging your balls off the entire game because I'm the host. I'm deciding essentially where you are. That's how that works. It's not cheating. That's the way that this host slave system works. That's
the downside of it too, though. I mean, that's the issue. That's why a lot of times you want a dedicated server so that everyone has an equal experience. People can't take advantage of lag switches and things like that.
And lag switching is exactly what I'm going towards. I don't know if you've watched the highlight that I
no, I haven't.
Posted
I've
here.
Got it here.
Go ahead. You can just go ahead and watch that by yourself if you want. But so I was playing Friday night, and the killer was chasing me, and I was looping him around a vehicle. And all of a sudden, I'm on one side of the car. He's on the other. He swings his knife. This is the new killer, by the way. He swings his knife in the middle of the air and hits me. Now, on my screen, and I was streaming this on Twitch, on my screen, he's like 20 feet away from me. And
he's on the whole other side of the vehicle.
Like, not even close. It wasn't like he hit me through a window. He was blocked by a vehicle. But because he was the host, and I'm going to say he's lag switching because this only happened when he was chasing people. He was able to kill me or knock me down on his screen when he wasn't on my screen. That's how the lag switch works when you, the killer, are the host. And it has gotten to a point where, in my opinion, Dead by Daylight is teetering on the edge of being unplayable. Because this occurrence, while I showed this to our friend Firebomb, who's got literally like 1,100 hours in the game, he goes, I've only seen this a handful of times, and I'm a pro for all intents and purposes. But little micro stutters, and you've probably experienced this, Brian, in your short play time, these little micro stutters and this, I thought I was around the corner, but the killer still got me, or I was through a window and the killer still got me kind of stuff for me, boiling over to the point of almost unplayable. And they have said now, they announced last year that they were going to add dedicated servers in the summer of 2019.
Yeah.
They needed to have this in the game a year and a half ago because they're adding all these cosmetics. They're doing all these other additions to the game. They're tweaking, they're balancing, they're adding maps, they're bringing the game to the Nintendo Switch. They're doing all these things. This game is running Unreal Engine, Brian, and now I'm going to punt the ball over to you. How in God's name is it taking so long for these people to figure out how to do dedicated servers with Unreal, which is probably the most utilized and most modified video game engine that exists in 2019? How did this take 3 years? It's not out. How is this taking 3 years?
Well, I mean, it sounds like it comes down to them as far as they just don't want to host the cost. Because if you look at each game, there's not very many players. If they do dedicated servers, they would have to have a host for each individual set of 5 people?
Yep, 5
Is that
people.
how many?
Yeah.
5 people in a game. You divide that their total player base by at least 5, right? Or less, because it would be you'd have some games that maybe didn't have a full set of players. That's a lot of servers, and they're looking at probably from a logistics standpoint of how do we, in a lightweight way, handle this many people, handle all these games without having to have hundreds of servers. Because the technology-wise, they're totally capable of doing this. They're already doing it. Right now, the server is the host. The host is the server.
Yeah.
What they need is a dedicated client that runs on a server somewhere. That then just becomes the host. It's not, I mean, they may have to do some changes to how they call and pass things around a little bit in the code, but that would be something they would do in a month, not 3, would you say 3 years?
Yeah, the 3-year anniversary was Saturday or something like that. Actually, no, it's this Tuesday, rather.
This Tuesday. So it's probably already structured for doing multiplayer and dedicated servers. But I just bet you they are trying to figure out how in the world, because imagine trying to run hundreds. I mean, they're probably trying to figure out how can we get away with this with the minimal monthly cost, because they don't want to run 300, 400 servers just so people can play with a little bit smoother experience.
Here's your number. So the peak over the weekend was the 20th. Well, that wasn't the weekend. What was that? Friday? Yeah. No, that was actually last Thursday. That's when it became free. That's when their free weekend started. They had 42,000 people playing. So you divide that by 5. That's 8,400. If everybody was playing and in a game, that's 8,400 games going on at the same time. Let's use 8,000.
Yeah.
So that's 8,000.
Figure that out cost-wise.
Well, yeah, I don't know. How does that work? I mean, you're talking about 8,000, maybe 7,500.
It's not 8. So it wouldn't be 8,000. Let's say 7,500. It wouldn't be 7,500 servers themselves, but there is a limit of how many clients. I'll call them server clients. That would be the host that you can run on a VM or even on a dedicated server. You're still going to have hundreds of actual servers, and they just have to be looking at that cost, saying, honestly, like that's a big chunk to bite off. They're probably working on doing maybe a premium tier service or something, not have it open to everybody unless you're in a higher tier. I mean, if that makes sense, or have a ranking system to where you qualify to go into a ranked version, maybe that then runs on dedicated servers. That would make more sense to me, to where they don't have to have hundreds and hundreds of dedicated servers running. I mean, physical servers or virtual servers that are then running hundreds or, like 50 each of some sort of client that they're trying to run this on. It just doesn't make any sense.
So I understand cost and that this is not the easiest task in the world, but it's just becoming very frustrating to me when that stream highlight is unacceptable in my opinion. The fact that that's happening 3 years into the game still is unacceptable. So I know it's last week of June, and it is technically summer now. The summer solstice has started, but they need these dedicated servers. I understand people are playing the game.
They're going to have to do a ranked system to where only certain ones qualify for the dedicated servers to cut the cost down.
You think?
To where when you get into the actual I think once you get to the more competitive level of it, then go to dedicated servers. So those people have the most consistent, and then you're playing your ranking system to try to, get ahead of other people or however they would want to do it. I think that way they could get away with having maybe like 100 servers that are running, maybe virtual servers, 100 games, or because not that many people are going to be in the rank compared. However many people are in the ranked, then those people have the most smooth experience, and those are probably going to be the people that are streaming and people that are really going to be complaining on Reddit when things aren't working right, things like that. They're not the plebs.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but now that you break down those numbers, it definitely is going to incur some significant cost to them, and it will be interesting to see how they roll that out. So I'll stop my little personal rampage there, but I would recommend you, if you're a Dead by Daylight person, go check out the highlight. It's on our Twitter too, @InfectionCast. It was just one of those situations where after that happened, I was just like, there's some profanity in it. Of course, I think Brian, I was allowed to scream the F word after that because it was just so egregious.
Well, I had it muted when I played it. I was just watching. So.
I was just one of those things where it was like, why am I wasting my time playing this game? That's how I felt after that happened, because it's just so egregious, and it looks to me like somebody's cheating. It looks to me like somebody's using a lag switch. I can't believe that the game just happened to lag right at that moment. I just don't believe that. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but there is documented lag switching going on in Dead by Daylight, because it's not hard to do, because you are the host as the killer. So it's the simplest thing in the world to do. So
I think that the system is set up to take advantage of that at the moment.
Well, the problem is, but it's been like that for 3 years, and it's not like this game wasn't popular and is all of a sudden becoming popular. This game has had a solid player base now for 3 years, and it's getting to a point where I'm getting very frustrated by playing this game, and I never was in the past. So I'm hoping they can figure this out. I'm hoping maybe with this big update, this big dedicated server update, and the fact that they're going to be on the Switch, maybe they'll be out in Seattle this year. That would be kind of cool to go and chat with the Dead by Daylight folks. So yeah, that's it. The Ghostface DLC is in there. You can check it out. It's on sale it's not on sale. It's available now, $4.99. And Nick says there needs to be dedicated servers, and you can check out my stream highlight for all that. All the links, all the notes are on our website, which is, as always, infectionpodcast.com. All right, rant done, Brian. Good. We can we can progress with the show.
Okay. So, let's go ahead and let's talk a little bit about Apex Legends, because this is a game. Remember, we did a poll. A lot of people want to hear about this, but I don't know that people are playing it so much anymore. I mean, they're putting out patches, but I don't see people on my list. I don't see people streaming it. So I'm not sure what's going on at the moment, but they did put out a patch. Their 6.20.2019 patch, data center improvements to make the list easier to understand and use. List will be sorted by ping by default. The selected data center will be highlighted in orange. Focus hover data centers will still be highlighted in gray. And right-clicking a data center will no longer make it look selected. Right-click would actually select the data center, but would still highlight the selection, which could be confusing. Another one they did is clients will now send user input to the server at a higher rate, so you should get a better tick rate. And then there was an error that they fixed. So, and this is a fix just for the PC. There are fixes I see, random weeks, but they sometimes are just for consoles. So we don't talk about them on here because they don't actually come to the PC. So they've got kind of different clients going out to each of those that are not always on the same iteration.
Interesting. What's the
So that is the PC. That's the latest PC live patch.
What's the reason for that? Do you think maybe it's different play style, that they've got essentially two different versions of the game, or is it a technology thing? What would be the reason for that?
No, well, lately I've seen that sometimes they'll release content that's exclusive to PS4 for a period of time. We saw that actually with H1Z1 here recently. They released a map that was exclusive to PS4, but also There is different technology there. One thing that we've heard talked about before is they have to go through some sort of a verification that on consoles they don't have to do with a PC. So it's really difficult for them to roll out content quickly on a PC and then have that match on the console when they have to go through and have either Microsoft with the Xbox or Sony with the PlayStation, then verify their patches and go through that whole making it gold process. So that would be one reason that they would get off. Also, there's different technology. So if you write it one way, these guys are at a high enough level to where they're probably writing things specifically in certain areas for each console. They're not just putting out a client and saying, "Oh, hopefully it all works." They're really tailoring the PS4 experience and the Xbox experience. And maybe they're just kind of leaving sometimes the PC client behind. I don't know what their numbers are on PC. I assume they're probably mostly console players now.
Yeah,
that are playing this game.
Yeah, I would think so.
Just little issue and little things. But I'm sure at some point, once this is verified, this is a verified patch on PS4 and Xbox, we'll probably see it roll out then.
Interesting. I'll agree with you on that. I really haven't heard a whole lot about Apex as of late, and I don't know what it was, but all of us just kind of stopped playing it, and they didn't do anything wrong. There was no, from what I remember, there was no game-breaking issues, really. It was just kind of that was fun for, call it 3 weeks. Which is
strange. I mean, all the elements are there that should make it a fun game, but it's just everybody kind of like, it just, that whatever it was, that thing wasn't there.
Well, it's probably BR burnout, the term that we've coined on the show now, the BR burnout phase. I haven't seen a whole lot of, we follow a whole bunch of people on our infection Twitter account, and I use a service called TweetDeck, so I always see our infection timeline. And I we follow various streamers and just industry people, and I haven't seen a whole lot of chat or a whole lot of activity. And unfortunately for us, but fortunately for EA, we don't get to see how many people are playing. There's no indication of how popular the game is or isn't right now. So it works out for them, doesn't work out for us.
Yeah, it'd be hard to say. I mean, there may be more people playing it than we realize, or there could be a lot less. Since they aren't saying anything, I'm assuming that means that there's probably a little bit less players than they were wanting, or what they would hope for.
Because I remember right when this came out, they kept every week for the first couple of weeks, they were tweeting out new player statistics.
Yeah, we have this many players and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, and then nothing. And then stop.
It's real convenient how when you control the narrative, it's very convenient how you can just not include any of those numbers. Obviously this is not just an issue with Apex, it's an issue with Fortnite and a whole bunch, any game that is not Call of Duty, Blackout. They've all got these issues because they're not on Steam, and without Steam Spy, you have no indication of the numbers. And I know Steam Spy is not 100% accurate, and our numbers are not always spot on, but it's generally, I think, a pretty good estimation of player base, which we just don't get with these other games.
Yeah. Yep. And so it'll be interesting to see if they continue adding content. I mean, that seems to be the indicator when you don't know player numbers. Are they adding new content on a regular basis? Is that going to stop? And if it does, well, there you go. That's your indicator. They're backing off. So we'll see what happens. I mean, this was just a patch of fixes this time. We'll see if they come out with another major content update.
Yeah, agreed. Hey, Brian, I want to talk about a game that we get to talk about every 3 or 4 months maybe, and it's a game called Dead Matter. And it's, I would say it's probably the most anticipated survival game coming out. I know Cyberpunk is, but in terms of our old definition of what survival games were,
community,
yeah, it's kind of got that. Can you give us a quick recap? What is Dead Matter? What is it supposed to be? Because it's not a BR game.
No, it's not a BR. So it's kind of like a co-op survival, and it's an open world survival, but it's more of a group versus the environment. It's not as much of a PvP as I think most people would be expecting. there's a lot of zombies, and they're the primary threat. You have to sneak around, you build bases, and a base, you build a base of some sort. I'm not sure, he hasn't gone into 100% of how that's going to work. But they're just making a really detailed environment. That this was originally a mod, so they're kind of keeping some of the visual effects of that. But it is mostly you against the environment, and I don't know if people are going to be prepared for that, because when they see something that looks like this, they think, oh, there's going to be all this PvP combat. There may be some, but that, from talking to him, that didn't seem to be the focus. The focus should be you against the world, which I think that's the definition of survival.
Yeah.
So I think that it'll be interesting to see how people, because right now people can't play. It'll be interesting how people adopt to it once it's actually playable, and then they say, oh, that's what this game is, because I think a lot of people don't realize.
So there's we've gotten a couple of these in the past, was it been close to 2.5, 3 years. They do a couple of long format development vlogs. And what we've got here is development vlog number 8 for Dead Matter. So we'll play through the vlog, and we'll come back after that and give some quick thoughts and opinions on that. So here is Dead Matter dev vlog number 8.
Hey survivors, my name is Nick C., the lead developer of Dead Matter. It's been a long time, but we've got a brand new vlog, and this one is jam-packed with content. First up, we've got the AS Val. This was created for a backer who goes by the username Clean. He's also a Twitch streamer, and I've left a link to his channel in the description. Clean, thank you so much for your contribution. All of us at the studio appreciate it from the bottom of our hearts. We hope you enjoy playing the game once the time has come. The Lee Enfield has been added to the game, as well as the 303 British ammunition to go alongside it. It can be reloaded via stripper clips or on a round-by-round reload. It has 4 variations, and they each fill a different niche for the rifle. The P226 has been added to the game. It utilizes a 10 and 15 round magazine, it fires 10mm, and it will be a solid choice of sidearm. The 1911 has a new tactical variant. It's got glowy rear iron sights, and it's a lot easier to aim in low lighting conditions. The 22 pistol has been added to the game. This is a weak, early game pistol. It will get the job done, and also becomes extremely quiet when it is suppressed. The SVT-40 has been animated and will be making its way in engine soon. You'll also be able to reload this rifle round by round, or via the box magazine, or via a stripper clip. We now have a second programmer on the team, Gunslinger, and even more changes to the codebase itself. The medical system, SATA character system, the equipment system, the weapon system have all been completely rewritten from scratch. The medical system now treats conditions much differently than before, allowing us a lot more creative freedom on how conditions can affect the player. Weapons still feel the same way that they did before, as the animations haven't changed. However, that's where the similarities end. The weapons have also been completely rewritten, and we've added some changes to the way that recoil and spread work. We've also added stability, which will pull the weapon left or right depending on how long you've been bursting for. We've also created some new flashlights and laser attachments for the weapons. You can toggle between the different settings depending on the attachment that you've got, and the weapon will remember the selection the next time that you pull it out. This uses our dynamic item data system and is what legendary weapons will use to track and save their kill count. You can also now change the reticle inside of some weapon sights. There will be some additional controls for zoom level in the near future. There are some new impact effects added by our new coder. They're a lot better than the system that we had before. There's been a lot of heavy lifting and optimization within the inventory system. We've also increased the density of our grid. This is so that we can make item sizes as accurate as possible, which also factors into the brand new pouch system. The inventory has also seen a lot of small UI improvements. We've added some new tooltips, new item icon renders, items being categorized by color, maximize the inventory grid space by reducing non-important widget sizes. We've also got a new info widget system for elements such as the item name, magazine capacity, condition, etc. Since the equipment system itself has been rewritten, we've also added a few features such as being able to take off a piece of equipment that has items stored inside of it. There are weight penalties and other restrictions tied into this. Equipment can now also be damaged. This will result in cells dying, which doesn't allow items to be placed into them. If a cell is damaged while an item is in it, it will lose its weight reduction bonus from the equipment that it is contained within. We will be implementing a mechanic that allows you to repair the dead cells. We've also added the tool belt system, which is used to store a specific set of important, useful items. The items that you place into your tool belt will carry over to your next life unless you're playing on a hardcore server. This is so that you always have some sort of progress and things to work towards that cannot be reset on death. There is a new hotbar system. You can now rebind weapons to different slots. Certain pouches now act as holsters that items can be drawn from, such as the waistband on any pair of pants as well as the holster on a police vest. We have removed 2 of the on-back slots that we previously had. This is due to the fact that you will always spawn with a pair of pants and have 4 holsters total. 2 on back for primary weapons, and 2 waistband slots that allow you to equip a secondary weapon, such as a hatchet or a handgun. We've got a brand new work-in-progress main menu that was created by our new programmer. It currently features a server browser, complete with Steam integration, a settings menu with FOV slider, as well as the ability to toggle motion blur, bloom, and other annoying or expensive post-processing techniques off. There's also a few audio sliders for those of you that really enjoy diving into editing their audio settings. He's also programmed some brand new animal AI that will be used to populate our world with wildlife. They'll also be a source of food for when cans are no longer easily found inside of the local Safeway. I also think that the birds are pretty when they're flying through the sky. We've added ambient occlusion volumes that we can use to fine-tune the darkness levels within buildings. These volumes also help out due to the less than accurate global distance field being used, well, in the distance. We've made some changes to how world streaming works in our branch of Unreal Engine. We can now tell Unreal Engine 4 what levels we would like to load during runtime. This enables us to do a lot, such as having a random section of world that only ever loads once. What this means is that a location could be used for a military checkpoint, a near a camp, or simply nothing at all. We can link locations to also be dependent on each other, which affords us a lot of flexibility and allows us to set up remote locations that are related to a primary location. And last but not least, our world has seen some amazing work by the art team, led by none other than the talented Shirk. We've got a brand new town in-game, and it's got a lot of locations for us to explore within it. There are lots of brand new structures that have been added to the world, and this has been an extremely productive period for Dead Matter. The town that has been added is one of the largest additions to the world so far. It really helps set the scale that a lot of the smaller towns in Dead Matter will be having. We've got a new motel variant. It's located right on the edge of Dead Man's Flats near the highway. This place will probably get checked out by players walking through the nearby area. You've been warned. There's also a new gas station variant which can be found within the town. Since our world is very large and people in Alberta really like gas, we decided to mix it up a bit. This is usually true for anything that we feel repeats too much. Gas stations and motels are the biggest examples of this so far in the game. There's this new wizard hut thing. It's currently located down the street from the apartments that have been added by the art team. These apartments will contain a lot of loot and will likely be targeted by players moving through the nearby highway. Plan accordingly. Dead Man's Flats has a bit of a sprawl and also contains a small residential area. It's currently using gray box assets, but it will be replaced by the sexy houses that we're currently showing off on screen right now. There are also a couple others that will get added by the time that we get to that point. There's also a new giant mountain resort that is near Dead Man's Flats. It's got plenty of small cabins for you to explore or for you to make into your next safe house. We've also added the best investment that the city of Calgary has ever made to the game. The exact placement of this beautiful prop is to be determined, and God help us all the day that it does. Nomad has been helping us get some in-game objects taken care of. He's done an amazing job on some of the medical items, as well as some of the items that we'll be using within the tool belt system. He's also created some head and chest-mounted flashlights for when you're not feeling too bright. We've now got a gore mesh that's been created by our talented character artist, Dogtooth CG. I threw it into our primitive gore project as quickly as I could, just for a quick test. I'm excited to see what we'll be able to achieve with this in-game with a lot better shading. We've also got some new additions to our development team. We've brought on a new writer, a new animator, a new programmer, and a new 3D artist. There are currently plans to bring on some additional members after this vlog. That's it for Vlog 08. These past 2 months have been filled with tons of hard work done by the entire development team. I'm an extremely proud lead developer. Given how much work was accomplished over the last 2 months, I don't even think we could have made it this far without the help and support from the community. You guys seriously rule, and I thank each and every one of you guys that have supported us so far from the very bottom of my heart. Want to help out with the project? You can. Show us some love by sharing this video on social media, or you can back the game via Indiegogo. Want to interact with us? Feel free to drop by our Discord or our forums. The links are in the description. Thank you for watching this to the end. We truly appreciate your support. Thanks again to Clean, who is our first boomstick tier backer. If you're still here, you should go check his channel out. The link is in the description. Peace out.
All right. Peace out. That's how that ends there.
That's the Canadian way.
Yeah, the Canadian way to end it out. I like a couple of inside jokes about Calgary, which I obviously was unable to pick up on as I'm not from Calgary.
Yeah.
But so 2 months they said since the last video, and I think, Brian, they're doing exactly what they need to be doing. They referenced probably about a minute and a half ago. We've brought on like probably a handful of new people since last video, and we're bringing on a couple of more after this one. You need to scale.
Yep. Yeah, that's the thing is if you look at what they're doing a good job of, I mean, they're putting in some really impressive landscapes and content that they have a nice mix of marketplace assets that they're kind of replacing. So they got the base content in there, and then they're turning around and putting in just very unique content. I think that what I've seen so far is very impressive for being such a small team. We haven't seen a ton of programming yet. As far as you're seeing the menus and things like that, but you're not seeing how the world kind of interacts with you. I think that'll be next. But they are getting a lot of the menu system and just the general things that you think of as a game all going, and it looks good to me. I backed it, so I'm ready to give it a try.
And originally, some of this stuff was supposed to be available in December of 2018. Now they've delayed that, and they're now expecting August of 2019 is the last update that they've got here on Indiegogo. So within the next couple of months, we should I guess something. Has anybody played this? Is there an early tech demo? I don't really remember.
No, not yet.
Okay.
Because he's just been building mechanics. I understand where he's at. Like, it's hard to put out a demo when you're still in the very beginning building stage. It's easier for some of these other companies when they have a previous product that then they're taking that base and then making a new game on it so they can have an already playable game. But when you're starting from scratch, it's hard to have what you would consider a playable game until close to the very end.
Yeah, that definitely
appears. You're adding and putting in new features.
Yeah, that definitely appears to be a problem with them. So cool devlog there. They mentioned a streamer or something that you can go check out. The link for their devlog is on our website, infectionpodcast.com, or just search Dead Matter on YouTube, and I'm sure it will be the latest video that comes up with that. I want to talk about our friends over at Zero real quick here, because there is something interesting here. There is a little bit of drama over
always is.
There's a little bit of drama over a feature that has been, well, I don't even know if you call it a feature, but something that has been taken out of the game. And the post is titled here, Update Regarding Reshade. And it says, after gathering feedback from our community and discussing things internally, we have made the decision to no longer allow Reshade to be used in-game. Now, I don't remember what game it was specifically. As a PUBG, I think, where Reshade was a very prominent thing. Brian, can you describe Reshade for us? Well, first, I guess we need to describe what is a shader, and what does Reshade allow you to do?
Well, I mean, if you look at different things, like what we were trying to accomplish with it in PUBG, is we wanted to adjust the coloring. The coloring wasn't quite right. There was some kind of depth issues where certain textures it was hard to see distance. So Reshade goes through, and sometimes it will make the pixels a little bit more crisp, or it'll give a little bit more shadow or less shadow. It will give just a little bit different visual effect. Well, an issue for this fog they were able to remove the fog using Reshade and just say, okay, turn fog off, even though that's not a feature inside of the game to be able to disable fog. They were able to do it because what was causing the fog, the effect that was causing the fog. There's other things that are a problem with this, is that this is tapping into your game in the same manner that a cheat client would. So it's very difficult for them to differentiate this. I think that's what finally got PUBG to stop doing it, was that someone could kind of cloak their cheat client as Reshade, give it similar names so that when it's seeing, if they put in a whitelist there saying you're allowed to use Reshade and they're able to get their client to look like Reshade, well, how do they know? They're not as easily going to be able to tell that you're cheating. That's one of the big issues. And also you can go through and make tweaks like this so that, as he's stating, changes the competitive dynamic. If one person seeing fog has a very limited distance of view, and then another person's like, well, I'm going to turn off the fog and I can shoot people when they can't even see me yet. Do you consider that cheating? I would, because it's not taking advantage of a feature of the game. It's using an external tool to manipulate the game, and it's something you couldn't do without that tool. So I think he's in his right to do it. People can complain, but if he's creating a specific environment for PvP, you should be playing pretty much in that environment, not having certain people be able to turn it off and others not.
Yeah, and we've seen this with a couple of games, and PUBG was the last one that we saw where they essentially banned the use of Reshade, which, as you said, Brian, injects itself probably right before the processing of the video, and then allows you to do your tweaks and your modifications to post-process the image and adjust brightness and contrast and whatever it may be.
One game that this is really popular in is Elite Dangerous, and it works very well in Elite Dangerous. You can get some really cool looking effects, and it just makes the space look awesome, and maybe with the way that the lighting on a planet and the glow of it, and just you can go through and get some really cool, and even just the lights that are on your ship's panel, like it'll affect how they glow and how they look. It can be used for very good things, as long as that game is not something where cheaters are prevalent. And I'm sure there is some cheating happening in Elite Dangerous, but obviously not enough to have them say no more Reshade. The benefit of people being able to play Reshade and showing screen shots and things like that outweigh the probably few cheaters that are trying to take advantage of the fact that there is a client that's being allowed to inject itself into the game client. So, but any competitive game like this, anywhere that there's PvP, they will not allow Reshade if they're serious, because it's too big of a risk.
Let me ask you this, and I don't know if you can help me. Is there a way that they could make it so the fog effect is not editable by Reshade, so you could still do your other color adjustments, but you can't? Can they make I don't know how game development works. Can they make the fog show up earlier in the chain somehow so that it cannot be affected by Reshade, or is that just a no-go?
I don't think there would be a way, because Reshade injects itself at the launch of the game. Like it's actually has a DLL that it's launching like a cheat client would with the game, and you see a little Reshade window pop up when the game starts. That's overlaying itself. So there's no way to really limit at that point what kind of access it has. It has access to the whole thing, which then you see allows it to do whatever it wants.
So they say if you have previously used Reshade, Easy Anti-Cheat will request that you remove it before allowing you to connect to servers. So they discussed it internally, and they came to the conclusion that that is the case. And I'll tell you this though, Brian, there's a couple comments on this Steam post, and the top 4 comments are talking about how there are just too many cheaters in the game in general. Your game is awesome, but please fix cheaters, fix the cheaters, stop the cheaters, too much cheaters, fix now. So I haven't played Zero in a couple weeks. I don't think you have either, but apparently this is a serious problem, and something that needs to be addressed quickly with the cheating issue, because I mean, that can give you the bad reputation that as a new game you can't afford to have.
Well, this we saw happen, the slow turn of H1Z1. It was a very similar thing. That we played, and then the tide of the cheaters kind of overpowered us. And it was just like, oh, okay, now what? I think that you're kind of running into the same issue with this. If he can't, and this is one way this is what he has to do. H1Z1 never took the steps to really curb it. Here, this is one of the steps. Okay, what are they doing to cheat? What's one way that they could possibly cheat? Let's close that off. They need to start closing them off. There's a reason the big AAA studios do not allow this program to work in their PvP games. And so, you may be a small studio, but you've got to think in that same way.
So a little bit of controversy with that, but we'll see what comes of that. But in addition to that, we also had a new hotfix 2.3 this past week, and a couple of things that they did here. Some changes to the recoil. They added the recoil recovery system, and they also adjusted default recoil for all weapons, which is slightly more recoil than they had before. And then they adjusted the recoil for the AK-47, the Scar L, the Scar H, the MP5, the G36, and the Honey Badger. So the recoils on all those guns have been changed. In terms of the grouping system, they fixed an issue causing group tags to not update when using the drone. You can no longer accept group invites while in an ATV or a drone. And then group icons, including death icons, will now fade when aiming in. So they'll become a little more, opaque would be the word to use when you're zooming in to give you a better line of sight or whatever you're trying to do. In terms of VoIP, they added a button to mute/unmute players in game. Again, this is one of these. This is one of the things that you read and may not seem like or sound like a big deal, but when you actually play the game and you hear the amount of VoIP spam,
when you live it.
Yeah, exactly. When you live it, when you're sitting in there's only 2 strongholds. When you're in one of the strongholds and people are just screaming or playing music into their microphones, that
reminds me of another game. I remember flashbacks.
Yeah, there was a game, it was something something like that, and there's constantly people screaming and playing music and yelling profanities in there and yelling streamers'
words
names
that we can't say without getting kicked off of Twitch for good.
Yeah, words that words I don't repeat in real life were yelled throughout that. So they've added that to the game. They added a new SMG fall off to the MP5, UMP9, and Honey Badger. We talked about this last week. They were going to add this, and I think they delayed it. But the fall off, essentially, the SMGs, their damage and the damage they do falls off over distance, as it should. That's what a submachine gun is. It's a high powered close range weapon. You don't shoot.
There has to be a trade off.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there has to be a trade-off between the various weapons. There has to be a reason to pick up the sniper. There has to be a reason to pick up the SMG styles. If they did not having that fall off, it just kind of made the SMG the go-to for all of them. Because, I can shoot this thing from a far distance. And also up close, it's good up close. You need to make it to where that SMG is beautiful in a certain range. But then when it gets outside of that range, you're like, I need to get like a mid-range AK or AR or 99 if I find a sniper if I want to be a distance out. Like they need to make it to where you have to either try to carry more weapons or picking and choosing what's your compromise.
Exactly. And then they removed the double XP and the double skin box that they were supposed to remove last week, but they had to delay due to some issues. So that's current with Zero. That's what we've got, and that's where we are as the game has been out now for 5 or 6 weeks. So they're working away. They're trying to do an update every single week, and it appears that they are continuing to do that with the updates that we've got here from Zero. All right, that's survival news. Yeah.
How about we talk about Fortnite?
Okay.
How about we talk about Fortnite here really quick? Now they do have a video. You're more than welcome to check it out on the website. It's pretty much just showing off a new thing that they've added called a Chug Splash. And what it does is on the impact, this thrown item splashes liquid in a small area, and all players that are within that radius instantly are granted 20 health/shield. So it grants health unless you are full health, in which case it will grant shield. And then Chug Splash can heal allies, enemies, and can extend the duration of the knocked state for knocked players. So that's kind of an interesting way to do it. Is you can actually, if you throw it at an enemy, it's going to heal them. So you have to be careful. You don't just, it's not like you just throw it in the middle of a battle that your friend and someone else are having, and it's going to only help your friend. It will heal whoever is in the range of it. It is a rare variant, and it drops in stacks of 2. You can carry up to 6 of them. You can find them in the floor, loot, the chest, the vending machine, supply drops, and the llamas. They removed the shotgun swap delay, and that's for mostly competitive players. You know, I'm sure they complained about that not having it be an instant swap. Shotgun cooldowns now only apply when the player is carrying multiple shotguns, regardless of the shotgun type. So this is a quality of life change to help prevent the swap delay system from interfering with players who do not have multiple shotguns in their inventory. And so they're going to be monitoring it, keeping an eye on it, just see if this fixes some of the issues that they were having. They reduced the combat shotgun's long range effectiveness. They also, on here, they do have a game mode that they're doing right now called the Sniper Shootout Duos, and they have trios, and then the Solid Gold Squads. So if you're interested in their limited time rotations, check those out. Now it says vaulted. Do you know what they mean by vaulted? It says these vaults are primarily targeted at adjusting the availability of explosives, putting them more in line with where we think they should be. So it says vaulted the boom bow, the dual pistols, and the dynamite. And I'm trying to figure out what they mean by vaulted. They're not using them anymore?
Yeah, I would assume vaulted
means sticking them in storage?
Well, vaulted, maybe
rather than saying they're removing them.
Yeah, like putting them in a safe in a bank. They vaulted them temporarily, maybe?
I'm thinking it seems like they're taking them out of the game temporarily. It's kind of a weird word. I was like, vaulted. So they're storing them for later. So I assume they're not going to be in the game right now.
Yeah, that's typically what a vault is, right?
So because what they're saying, the vaults are primarily targeted adjusting the availability of explosives. So they think that there's too many explosives at the moment, so they're removing dynamite and the boom bow. And I don't know what the dual pistols has really to do with explosives, since I've played a ton. So I'm assuming that means they're taking out some of the explosives because there's too many in the world. Or maybe they're adding new things all the time. They probably want to add some other things that have an explosion to it, but they don't want to be oversaturated. So they're definitely about playing with the world and removing what they don't think works and putting what they think. And they've set it up perfectly to do that, constantly changing the world, changing the weapons. No one complains that their favorite weapon is gone because there's so many weapons.
Well, in order to get our Brian, I got to stop you because we got to get our weekly allocation of epic shilling in to get our paycheck here. It is interesting though if you look at that, and I'm going to go off this premises that's what they mean by vaulting. Every other game we've ever seen would say removed X, Y, and Z to balance explosives in games or whatever, and it's just simple little things like that. Using the word vaulted instead of removed or disabled, it just has a different ring. And that's the
kind of... Well, a vault is a positive thing, right?
You're right, absolutely.
It's a positive term. A vault is something where you're storing it. It's special for later. You want to keep it. If they said remove, that's a negative term. So they definitely have marketers that go, somebody who has a degree in this that goes through it. How can we word this in the best possible way to make it to where people don't get upset? And you very rarely hear about people getting upset about these things. So they're doing it right.
I've heard Brian actually has a vault buried in his backyard where he stores all of his Steam codes that he gives away on this program. So if you're traveling around, there's a huge vault.
Well, do you want to know an interesting story? When I was 5. Okay, when I was 5 and younger, the house that I grew up in at that time, my dad, he was with a historical society, and he collected a lot of things. And in the basement of our house, we had a giant bank vault to go into one of the rooms, and it was from a late 1800s bank. one of those kind of vaults, and it was a door downstairs. And so people had all these rumors that we were storing, because my dad collected carpets, like really really fancy Middle Eastern carpets and things like that. So people had all these theories about all the stuff that was behind the vault door, but it was just storage.
Do you still have access to that?
I don't know. I mean, I haven't been there since I was 5. I know where the house is.
But, your parents don't live there anymore.
No, we moved from there when I was 5.
Oh, man.
And we didn't take the bank vault with us.
Okay. Well, I understand that. All right. You don't need to be a smart ass.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was just wondering. I don't know. I could have been right. Maybe you were storing your Steam giveaway codes in the vault in your parents'
maybe
basement.
they're still there.
Yeah, the Steam codes are still there, an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I back to what you're talking about. It's just the simple things of using a positive term like vault instead of, as you said, a negative term like removed or deleted or disabled, that just it's 100 of those little things that add up to the unprecedented success that we've seen of Fortnite through Epic.
Yeah.
It's just those little things.
Yeah. Now, here's one thing I want to make a comment on. This next note: remove the ability to ride proximity grenade launcher projectiles. Now, you would notice streamers were trying to do this, and they would jump onto the like one of these grenade launchers, and then they would fly across the map and do some crazy
That's
thing,
different, though.
based on it.
These are the new proximity ones.
But I'm saying whatever that type of behavior,
yeah,
they are saying due to the fast speed of the projectile, it was causing problems with level streaming. And you can still ride rockets launched from rocket launchers, but level streaming is where it's what allows the whole map not to be loaded at once. And so as you travel around the map, it starts to stream in the content and the data and the information you need from that new area you're going. Well, if you're moving too fast, it can't transfer the information to you fast enough. And then all of a sudden things start popping in and information isn't accurate to what you're seeing. You don't see someone until you're right above them. And so obviously whatever it is, now it's interesting to me that they say you can still ride rockets.
Yeah.
I don't know why that would be different, but
because they're slower.
Yeah, are they slower than the other one?
They're a lot slower, I believe, than the new proximity ones.
Okay. So they made the rocket probably to the speed that the level streaming could handle, but they didn't. They wanted to have a faster projectile for this one, and so they just disabled the ability to ride it. So you won't be seeing any videos on that anytime soon. They had a short delay for start damaging players with the storm flip on entry to mimic the storm range gameplay. They added storm flip to audio visualizers when it's activated, and toys no longer will show up in the elimination feed on Starter Island. So I guess when toys were destroyed. And then after that, there's just a bunch of bug fixes that they did. They did do some adjustments to gameplay and some performance improvements, audio improvements, UI improvements, improvements to the replay system. And then they talk about some mobile things that they did. So if you're interested in those notes, we'll have them in our patch notes on the website, and you can go check out all the details.
Speaking of another BR game, you put an interesting note in here about Realm Royale. They redid the whole FAQ and kind of like a general introduction to the game. It's a very long document that they've updated, and it's pretty much you could read through it and it will tell you, I skimmed through it, pretty much everything you need to know about how Realm Royale works, how the different classes and how all that stuff plays out, all into
even just like bots, like why are there bots in the game? Yeah, things like that.
I thought that was interesting. I don't remember seeing any other games publishing when they've done big updates to their, I'm going to call it, readme.txt file or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean they're pretty good at communicating. I enjoy that game, but I'm not into a BR. BR Burnout, that would be a game that I would enjoy playing the most out of the BRs, but I can't bring myself to play a BR right now. Just can't do it.
Brian is boycotting the BRs. Lots of B's in there.
It just doesn't bring me the enjoyment that it used to. I'd rather be doing something else.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'd rather be watching YouTube videos than play a BR. And we've talked about this numerous times on this program. That's how I personally feel about it.
Yep. All right. Well, one thing I was going to mention, Wildlands, I talk about every once in a while, and that's made by Bohemian Interactive, so the guys that make Arma, and they have a dev diary that they put out. But they now have in this is a kind of an open world. It does have a multiplayer ability, but it's kind of like a discovery world. You have to, similar to Atlas, I guess. You kind of start on an island. You have to figure out how to build a ship, and then you can travel to other lands. And there's a lot of stuff to discover. It's all done voxel based, which means you can dig up any part of the dirt, form the land. I have a lot of fun with that. I think I've played like 14 hours of this game, mostly single player. But they've added in this patch. It's called Find Friendships. And it has a lot of stuff with the friends list and clans, and they've redone the chat system. They've also improved the terrain generation, which will be good. You get more unique terrains and biomes because it is all randomly generated. Yeah, it's very well done. I enjoy it. It's just I can't really recommend it to other people because it's not like a super multiplayer game. Like you have to kind of play off of each other's save game. Like it syncs it to the cloud. Yeah, it's just it does like a syncing thing. So it's just not it's not great for a bunch of people playing at once.
Is it like the Forest?
But it's much more cartoony and casual.
I mean, in terms of the server save and how that whole process goes down.
Yeah, I mean this does a little bit better than that because this one like actually syncs. Like we can play at the same time, and then it just syncs when I exit. It'll sync my save to the cloud. If one of my friends then wants to play on that level, it'll then resync it to them. They'll play when they're done. It'll save up. But when you're playing at the same time, you can join the same game. So
that's weird mechanic.
It's okay. Yeah, it's just kind of an odd way of handling it.
It seems incredibly convoluted and incredibly prone to error, like corrupted saves and things.
That's the issue. Is if somebody does something and it like syncs at different times, it can cause big issues. So that's why I don't get too crazy on it. I try to keep it somewhat casual because I don't want to be like, oh, I just lost 14 hours worth of whatever I was doing.
Yeah, because of a freaking a corrupted save file somewhere.
Yeah, because somebody logged in and then it saved over my file.
Yeah, seriously.
So that's Wildlands. You're more than welcome to check it out. It is a fun little game. I've played with one of our listeners as well. And we jumped in the same game and kind of messed around. So,
do you know off the top of your head what that will run you cost wise?
I'll pull it up really quick.
Okay.
It's not highly expensive. So.
While you're doing that, I'll go through this. There's a Scum hotfix here, and they say that they want you to verify the integrity of your game files. You could have an issue even if you do this hotfix correctly. So just a couple of quick things in here. They adjusted spawn rates for female underwear and bra. Puppet pants.
Important things.
Very important things. Puppet pants and raincoat issues fixed. Increased base elements, the HP of those. Adjusted platform and tower placement so it will work better on uneven terrain. That's a huge issue in a lot of games. Fixed crash when squad members built wall blueprints and relog. Fixed platform not getting any damage. I assume not taking any damage. Fixed base building recipe not using planks correctly. Fixed a bug where the cabin could be placed on the ground when it should be placed on the platform. That's a big issue. Various level bugs. Couple of things that they've added to the loading screen. Fixed a rock in the air that could have been probably causing things to blow up or whatever it was, and then a couple of things, items dropping in the wrong locations, and just a couple of other various issues in and around the game. So that's a Scum hotfix 0.2.40.15.059.
Very nice. And then we have a unturned update. They're 3.30.3.0. A lot of threes in there. But they went through and updated added two bundles created by one of the teams that are making a map. Curated workshop skins. So if you're into those. Number of quality of life fixes. So, for instance, you can open up the pause menu from the death screen now. There's some disconnects that were happening, just some issues server as well that they've fixed, some issues with the loading time. They've added some additional things to the level editing if you're doing any of that, so you can override the weather in the JSON file. Added per level version numbers, so workshop maps can be updated more smoothly. Now they added the vanilla bubbles as a true false, so you can change that and have those underwater bubbles. They added some additional things for modding, since that's a big part of this game. Added some features for plugin development, and then a few tweaks and fixes. So 3.30.3.0 of Unturned.
All right. Thank you for that, Brian. And I think that's everything, right?
I think we have Rust.
Oh.
There's some interesting things with Rust.
Yes.
That they added. I don't know if you want to play Shadowfrax's video.
Yeah, because
he does describe it there. If we want to talk about it,
yeah, I've got time for that. So here is the Chippy arcade cabinet and some optimizations for everybody's favorite survival game, Rust.
Greetings, survivors and friends. Shadowfrax here with your regular, relaxing bit of Rust development news, and because you enjoyed it so much last week, it appears that we'll be receiving yet another Friday patch today at about 3 PM EST. That is, if you're watching this on Friday, but hopefully you're clever enough to figure out this time stuff yourself. The first thing that will be getting forcibly screwed into Rust's back end this week is the long-awaited Chippy arcade cabinet, which you can see being demonstrated here, and much like the Clatter helmet before it, is a crossover promotional item thingy available to those of you who also own Chippy. Facepunch's recently released bullet hell shooter with bosses that you quite literally chippy away at. As of saying these words, it's not fully implemented on staging yet, although it can be spawned in, played on, and high scores can be achieved. And even though, as you can see here, the experience is virtually indistinguishable from the actual game, I think more functionality could be creeping into it before it's merged, but we'll see. I've been told that the crafting costs will probably be 10 high qual and 2 gears at a level 1 workbench, and as far as I know it'll be a magic arcade cabinet, so won't require hooking up to a power source. You can also pick it up and move it elsewhere if you want. Cue exploits! No, I'm just joking. I'm sure they've thought of that. As you may know, I'm a big fan of games within games, so the idea of having something like this taking up valuable space in your base is appealing. I just hope that one day they'll produce a version we can play Legacy on, and then we'll never have to go outside again. From one type of bullet hell to another now, and with this patch, Rust will also be receiving a few performance enhancements. Yay! Oh, and by the way, this isn't a forced wipe, just a patch, in case you were getting angsty. We're going to see the return of a few optimizations. Firstly, multi-box pruning broad phase for better physics performance, particularly on servers. And just to refresh you on what this mouthful means, multi-box pruning divides the game world up into a grid, and each grid cell can perform a sweep and prune, which really helps if you have a lot of game objects hanging around. Skin unloading is enabled by default for everyone again, which basically unloads skins from memory when they're not in range. There are some network lerp improvements, which should fix vehicle jitter on less than ideal connections, and AI, which is a notorious performance hog, is getting a fairly meaningful change in that animals will no longer sense other NPCs.
Woof, woof, woof. What's the matter with you? Why you do this? Woof, woof. I am just screaming into the void. Woof.
The upside of this is that NPCs will no longer be doing expensive visibility checks on each other, and the hope is that this will improve things quite a bit. Oh, and there was a fix for Rustage eggs not taking splash damage. Super important, that one. In works in progress, HDRP work and new environment shaders are both being worked on separate branches, so no visuals to give you on either of those just yet. The giant excavator monument is still on course for inclusion next month, as far as I know, and a single commit this Thursday stood out to me, namely a player animator update, which looks to be aimed at allowing emotes at some point soon. Now, you may know the ability to express ourselves in more complex and nuanced ways with our hands has been in concept limbo for quite some time now, although we came close about 2 years ago with a number of gestures made and a concept for an emote pie menu being posted. I know that certain gestures are already in the game files too. Looks like things may be moving again though, so watch this space and let me know in the comments which gestures you'd like to be able to make. Is that a good idea? Lastly, let's have a look at the new suggestions/roadmap section of the Rust website since it was released last week, and the current top voted ones include making all role-player items default blueprints, fixing the tree mini-game, which has been marked as planned now, buffing the harbour monument, and adding a train that goes around the map. Sadly, adding edible pies is still only at number 7. You'd think that would be higher. You can also see that the new roadmap is growing, with a number of interesting features planned, such as weather, Tier 2 cooking, musical instruments, skinnable double doors, and even motorbikes. No, that's a new one. This is your opportunity to get involved in Rust's development, so please check it out. I'll leave a link in the pinned comment. Upvote the suggestions you agree with and give your own. Also, let me know if there are any on there that you think are super important, because there are some really well thought out ones. Pies. Thank you for lending me your eyeballs again this week. It's been a pleasure to keep you up to date with all the stuff and things. I'd appreciate your likes, subscribes, comments, bell rings, and general positive vibes. It's not an easy game here on YouTube at the best of times. Come and join me on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, Discord, and my Steam group. A massive thank you also to my patrons again this week for helping me to take the time to make these vids for you. And I shall catch you all soon. But in the meantime, keep calm and stay rusty. Cheerio.
Alrighty, Brian, another quick update from our buddy Shadowfrax and some of the ongoings of Rust. What are your thoughts on that arcade cabinet?
It's more of a cross-selling kind of gimmick to get people to buy. I mean, the thing is, that game is $15. You can buy it separately, and then it allows you to play a kind of a similar looking mini game inside of Rust. Uh-huh. So, I guess, hey, it's smart. You have a big group of people that are playing. They only have 69 reviews of Chippy on Steam right now, so obviously there's not that many people that have it.
Yeah,
it did just come out, 10 days ago. So this is just them trying to promote it, adding some of the code into the game. We'll see. I don't know if a ton of people are wanting to play Chippy right now.
Yeah,
so seems like it was kind of a side project they did.
I look at the player base of Rust, and I don't see them. I don't see them halting their PvP activities exactly to going over and then playing Chippy. I don't foresee that. But hey, I've been wrong before. I guess I could be wrong again.
You never know.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So one thing I was going to mention right now, so that's $14.99, but that Wylands game is $15. You were asking about the price of that earlier. $15. It's a good price point. It's a lot of content. And it's made by a major studio as well. There's mixed, people. It's a mixed reviews because they make changes. It's definitely in development, but if you're just looking for a casual little game to run around and you can regenerate the world if you get bored, that's the kind of game you can play.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Brian. And I've got to tell you, we've been on a roll here the past couple of weeks. We have done all of our show notes. We should get like an award or something. Maybe we need to. Give ourselves an award for this, our achievement award for doing all of our show notes and not going off on tangents.
We can walk up on some random stage at PAX and record ourselves and hand ourselves a award.
Yeah, congratulations on doing your show notes that one week in June.
Yeah.
By the way, if you want to check out any of the videos and whatnot, you can head on over to our website. It's infectionpodcast.com. What were you saying?
All right, so are we ready for tip of the week, or is there anything you want to do beforehand?
No. Well,
all right, tip of the week. So I go through. What do you want? Are you going to do yours?
No. I was going to ask what is tip of the week, Brian. But then the Skype delay and it's just a mess. Who knows?
Yeah, we do have a little bit of a. Well, we're making it work. Tip of the week, where I go through and either give a general gaming tip or one for a specific game. We talked about it a little bit today, Unturned. So that will be tip of the week. Okay, so in turn, keep in mind that when you're building a base, be careful of building near a populated area. You may be tempted to say, hey, there's a lot of loot there, things will respawn, but you're going to open yourself up to raiding. That is a real thing that probably a lot of people don't get quite into it enough to discover, that you will get raided and unturned, but that does happen. So once you build a base, maybe build it outside of a populated area so that you can try to survive and build up your stocks and then go in to the more populated areas. One thing when you're out there trying to survive, keep in mind, look around for berries. That's one of the primary food sources that we have. But you have to be careful because a lot of those berries are poisonous. So the trick that you can do is if you get enough berries, actually crush them, and that makes them edible. So not editable, edible. You can remember also to combine your half-empty ammo boxes because inventory space does make a big difference in this game. You can combine those half-empty ones to one complete box, and hopefully that's enough to kind of get you started. Unturned, as Nick says, is a very difficult survival game. It is a lot of fun, but there are a lot of little tricks like that you need to keep in mind because you will have a miserable time once you are destroyed. So that is tip of the week.
You'll have a miserable time anyway because you're going to complain that the game is not good because it's too hard, and you'll say, it's Minecraft with zombies because you're no good at the game. So you'll have a miserable time anyway.
Yeah.
It's
Where's creative mode? I need creative mode.
Yeah, it's a real tough game, man. We played it maybe 2 months ago when they added one of the new maps, and it was the same thing as it's always been. It is a tough game. It's a grind. I think it's more of a grind than Rust, maybe. Hot take.
Yeah.
So there you go. Quick note.
Go ahead. Close.
Close?
No, I think we're getting a really bad delay, so I think I'll let you. How about I let you take the show out? Do you want me just to give my ending?
Absolutely. So, go ahead, Brian. Where can people find you on the internet?
All right. If you want to find me at Boise Computer on Twitter, you can check out my blog, biteoftech.com. And make sure you go check out our website, infectionpodcast.com, where we have all our show notes for all these past episodes. Maybe some of the videos that we talked about or you heard on this one, you can go watch those. We have a link to our Discord server, so you can hang out, submit news, different topics that maybe we can cover on the show. We also have our Steam, so if you want to get a notification before the live show starts, you can subscribe to that. We have our audio-only forums, videos, to links to our YouTube channel, and our Twitch. And make sure you go to our Support Us if you want to help support us through Humble Bundle whenever you make an Amazon purchase, or if you just want to send us direct donation. That all goes towards helping us reach PAX. So thank you very much.
Alrighty, thank you very much for that, Brian. We will see you next week. And I do want to say this. I'm out of town. I've got my microphone bungee corded to a lamp doing this show. We are fully dedicated. We're fully into this show, folks. So don't let anybody tell you otherwise. I would have loved to have not done the show this week while I was away, but that's not what we do. We've been doing it for now 231 weeks straight. This is 232, and our goal and we have all of the intentions of keeping that going forward. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Infection. Again, if you missed any portion of the show or want to check out any of the videos, you can head on over to our website. It's infectionpodcast.com. Follow us on Twitter at InfectionCast. And again, we are here live most Tuesdays, 7 p.m. Eastern, right here on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/InfectionPodcast. Well, my name is Nick Craig. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I'd like to have you do so. It's at Nicholas M. Craig on Twitter. Again, our website, infectionpodcast.com. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.